Hi, Teresa from FE here. FE is a lead management platform built for mortgage brokers, with superior functionality designed for a better customer experience. FE has partnered with Rate City to give brokers the opportunity to purchase verified leads and appear on their high traffic comparison website. For more information, go to fe.com.au.
Hi everyone, it's great to be here. At Heartland, we've helped over 21,000 seniors live a more comfortable retirement using our reverse mortgage. So if you're interested in diversifying your business and helping your clients later in life, become a Heartland broker. We offer specialised training, a dedicated broker support team, an online application submission tool with marketing resources to help grow your business and meet the needs of today's market. Feel free to get in touch with the Heartland Broker team or visit our website at heartlandfinance.com.au.
Hi guys, I hope you're all well. This is Darren Loads from Insurance AdvisorNet, and for those of you that don't know, we're the insurance brokers for the FBAA and the preferred PI insurance providers to all their members, and have been since 2000. Just quickly today, the current state of the insurance market is probably as hard as we've seen it in the last 20 years, and most commercial insurance is going through a period of around about 10 to 20% increases. So it is pretty tough out there, and that is flowing into PI insurance as well. On the plus side of things, I'm happy to report that we've recently just renewed our facility with Allianz, and our premium rates have been locked in unchanged again for another 12 months. So for those of you that aren't taking advantage of the exclusive package that we do offer members, please keep us in mind and give us a go when your policy is next due for renewal. You can find all our contact details on the homepage of the FBAA website, and we look forward to being of assistance to you. Other than that, stay well. I hope business is good for you all, and look forward to catching up with you at the upcoming national conference. Cheers.
In response to COVID-19, the federal government are offering small to medium businesses the opportunity to access the Boosting Apprenticeship Commencements. The subsidy covers 50% of new eligible apprentice or trainees' gross wages paid in the 12-month period from the date of commencement, up to a maximum of $7,000 per quarter. Trainees must be signed up before the 30th of September 2021. Contact us today to find out more.
Hi, I'm Siobhan from Pepper Money, and we are really excited to be sponsoring this year's FBAA eSummit. At Pepper, we provide a variety of solutions, including real-life home loans, personal loans, loans for professional equipment, and commercial mortgages. We would love to speak to you today about how we can help your customers.
Well, good morning, everybody. Can we all hear me? I hope we can. Fantastic. My name is Brett Spencer. I'd like to welcome you all to the Victorian Tasmanian eSummit session number 2. I will be handling today's session as our superwoman Leah is currently on a plane heading to Adelaide. I think she got out of Brisbane right this morning with the fog, so welcome to Melbourne World. I just want to welcome you all here today. Thank you for joining us for the 2021 Open Banking and Digital Financial Services Environment FBAA eSummit Series for Vic and TAS. I'd like to get started today just running through a little bit of housekeeping. Toilets to the left, toilets to the right. I'm not sure where all those are for all of you individually. If there's an emergency siren, you know how to exit as well. Today, there's 1.5 CPD points per hour allocated to each eSummit session 2 here in Victoria. You'll get an email with your CPD code. You should have got yesterday's ones if you were. You'll also get a survey following this. So tune in throughout the whole seminar and the webinar, and you'll ensure your attendance is marked off, and then you'll receive the email at the end of it. We'd like to thank our sponsors for their support. It's been a tough year for everyone here in Victoria, a tough few weeks for us all as well. Hopefully we'll get some better news this week about some further easing of restrictions. But it's great to see all of the sponsors working really closely to ensure that they can still provide you with education and assistance in any of the need that you need during this time. I won't read out all the list of them, but actually now I will read out all the list of them. There's ALI, Bluestone, Finstro, Prosper, Heartland Senior Finance, Suncorp, On Deck, Speedy Finance, Affordable Staff, Insurance Advisor Net, Lend, Pepper Money, Strive Financial, AMC Training Group, FE Credit Fix Solutions, and Trailbook Loans. So thank you all of our sponsors for being and supporting us today. You'll get all of their contact details at the end of this event and after today's session. Also like you to not forget, as an FBAA member, you'll receive 10% off your membership every time you refer new members who join the FBAA. Under our MTI program, no fees, no docs, no worries. People can transfer from the other association to our association, and you will also then get a 10% discount. We'd also like to remind you, a number of you would have received or seen information about our app. So if you can go ahead and download the FBAA app, get access to all of your information, all the updates, our upcoming webinars, to register for any future Victorian events once we're allowed to meet face-to-face. So go ahead and download that app for yourself. But also I really want to encourage you all to go and continue to access the members area on our website. Log in to receive your resources and tools to assist you. You would have received the new emails recently giving you your new usernames and passwords, or at least requesting to register for your usernames and passwords. So log in and have a look at all that information. We've also added the BID Digital Educational Knowledge Testing course information for those of you who still wish to complete it and continue to update this section with many measures for you all. The agenda for today's session was on the registration link that was sent out, and also there should be in the Zoom chat box. I think you'll find the schedule is in there as well. One of the things I'd like to push you towards is also our broker support program. If you look into that, particularly for all of us here in Victoria, as we've said, we've done it tough. We continue to do it tougher than everyone else in the country. And there's a lot of these things around, the mentoring programs, our education support, just general support and mental health. I think that's a big thing for us down here in Victoria at the moment. So log on there, look at our broker support programs, and continue to use the resources that we provide for you all. So I think that's all the housekeeping we have for today. What I'd like to do is throw it open to commence our first session. We'll now hear from Senator the Honourable Jane Hume with an update on open banking and digital financial services environment and what the government is doing and planning for the future. I'd like to hand over to you, Senator the Honourable Jane.
To the Finance Brokers Association of Australia for the invitation to speak to you all today. A lot has changed in the past year, but buying a home is still one of the most significant financial decisions that Australians make. And it can be daunting, and I want to recognise the role of brokers in matching borrowers to lenders, advising on loan application processes, and negotiating interest rates. Australians are increasingly recognising the value of mortgage brokers to help them navigate the world of purchasing property. In 2003, mortgage brokers accounted for just 25% of total home loans. Now today, that number is 60%. Demand for services will continue, and recent Royal Commission reforms will only enhance consumer confidence in your sector. It's also inevitable that technology and innovation will play a greater role in future. And I think that it's terrific that the Finance Brokers Association of Australia has devoted today's webinar to open banking and digital financial services. As Minister for the Digital Economy, I am passionate about the benefits of open banking. Now, it's still early days, but the Consumer Data Right will revolutionise the way consumers, both individuals and businesses, use their data to compare prices, switch products, manage their finances and cash flow, and streamline banking product applications, including loans. I'm equally excited about what this means for the growth of Australia's fintech industry to deliver innovative, data-driven solutions that improve Australians' lives, drive competition and productivity gains across the economy. Australia's journey towards the Consumer Data Right the framework that underpins open banking, started with the 2014 Financial System Inquiry, which recognised increased data sharing could improve financial services outcomes. Now, this was followed in 2015 by a competition policy review, which recommended improving individuals' access to their own data to better achieve consumer outcomes. The evidence base continued to build. In 2017, the Productivity Commission's inquiry into data availability and use proposed the creation of an economy-wide comprehensive right to enable consumers to control their data. Now, at the time, the Productivity Commission said there is enormous untapped potential in Australia's data. Everyone, including the government, agreed. In the 2017-18 budget, we announced the introduction of open banking and commissioned a review to recommend the best model for Australia. The government subsequently announced in its response to the Productivity Commission's inquiry the creation of the Consumer Data Right, an economy-wide approach to data portability, implemented first in the banking sector and soon to be followed in the energy and telecommunications sector. The Consumer Data Right was viewed as a game changer from the very start. While modelled in part on the open banking regime in the United Kingdom, the Australian framework was established with a founding principle of universality, which, among other things, put Australia at the fore of data sharing regimes globally. It meant that it was designed with economy-wide application at its very core. The Consumer Data Right framework enables consumers to safely, efficiently and conveniently harness their own data and information held by Australian businesses for their direct benefit. The framework will enhance data-driven innovation and make products and services more affordable by putting downward pressure on prices as a result of increased competition and greater choice. Importantly, a fundamental design feature of the Consumer Data Right is robust privacy and security protections, which will help build trust and confidence in the system. Now, these protections allow consumers to control what data is shared and with whom and for what purpose, and when it must be deleted. Now, open banking launched on the 1st of July 2020. It started with the Big Four banks, ANZ, Commonwealth Bank, NAB and Westpac, providing access to certain consumer data. And this included data on savings accounts and credit accounts. From the 1st of November, the Big Four started providing access to mortgage and personal loan data, followed by lines of credit and trust accounts in February 2021. A number of businesses that help consumers to make the most of their data have become accredited data recipients, or ADRs. And we expect the number to steadily increase as the rollout progresses. We are also now seeing banks also choosing to become ADRs, with Regional Australia Bank and the Commonwealth Bank of Australia becoming accredited, and more are expected to follow. The next milestone is fast approaching. Starting from the 1st of July this year, 12 months after the Big Four banks, the rollout of open banking in the non-major banks is set to occur. Now let me step through how the open banking process works in practice. Under the Consumer Data Right framework, there are three main parties in open banking. First, there's the consumer, an individual or a sole trader business. Second, there's the data holder, a bank. And third, there is the accredited data recipient, or ADR. Now this could be a budgeting app, for example, or a rival bank, but either way, they must meet stringent accreditation criteria, including information and security and privacy requirements. The future applications of the Consumer Data Right are endless. A customer could direct her bank to share her data to an innovative ADR, say an app, which might be able to help her find a better deal on her financial products and services based on her individual circumstances. And as the Consumer Data Right is implemented in more industry sectors beyond open banking, that customer will eventually use the same innovative application to get a better deal from energy and telco providers and beyond. At no point does the customer need to share her banking login details or her password to do so. The customer is provided access to her data in minutes rather than in weeks, and she can share her data easily with other accredited data holders or recipients. And importantly, the customer has control of her data throughout the entire process. She can view and manage and withdraw consent for data sharing, as well as ask for her data to be deleted when she's done. In January 2020, an inquiry into the future directions for the consumer data right commenced, led by Scott Farrell. The government asked the inquiry to consider options to expand the functionality of the consumer data right. So this included how it could be expanded for consumers beyond just choosing to share their data and towards applying for and managing products, including by initiating payments. It also examined how the consumer data right could promote innovation through the creation of products and services that are mindful of the needs of vulnerable consumers. And importantly, the inquiry was asked to identify how the CDR could enhance consumer, business and economic opportunities. The inquiry came back with 100 recommendations, and the government will respond to that report later this year. Providing for deeper functionality alongside the government's accelerated expansion to other sectors puts Australia at the cutting edge of digital and data-driven economy. During COVID-19, Australia vaulted forward in digital adoption for both consumers and businesses, and we now have an opportunity to keep that momentum going right across the economy. And that's why the government is investing almost $1.2 billion in Australia's future through the Digital Economy Strategy. The Digital Economy Strategy provides a roadmap to grow Australia's future as a leading digital economy and society by 2030. As part of the strategy, we have committed $111.3 million to strengthen and expand the consumer data right economy-wide. Now, we've already commenced implementation in energy, and we've announced telco will be designated as the next sector. To inform the sequencing and the prioritisation of an economy-wide rollout, Treasury is also undertaking a strategic assessment which will inform a roadmap for implementation. It will also expand Australia's international influence to establish an interoperable and rules-based approach to international consumer data portability and sharing frameworks. In the new area of open banking, Australian fintechs have a chance to seize on opportunity. It's an ideal time to innovate and expand as people look for new ways to manage their businesses and personal financial affairs. We have a tax and regulatory framework that supports innovation. We have the enhanced regulatory sandbox in place. We've introduced restricted authorised deposit-taking institution licensing regime to reduce the barriers to entry into the banking sector. We've established the equity crowdfunding regime to expand access to finance for startups and early stage businesses. And we've established the UK-Australia FinTech Bridge, and that's our intention to negotiate a new bridge under our digital trade agreement with Singapore. And we're not stopping there. We'll continue to look for exciting opportunities and to encourage and support startups and industry to support Australia's economic recovery and spur it on. So, I'd like to thank the Finance Brokers Association of Australia for hosting today's webinar. The Morrison government believes that data is critical to building a modern digital economy and to delivering better outcomes for all Australians. Open banking and the consumer data right is just getting started. We understand the idea of letting money work for us with investments, but imagine if we could do the same thing with data, where consumers let their data work to their advantage and consumers trust that their data won't be misused. So this is what the future of the consumer data right could look like as it expands. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Jane, for providing that update. I think as we can see, there's some exciting things happening in the world of open banking going forth. It's a big change to our lending environment, and it'll be interesting to see how this affects all of us over the coming years. It's certainly an exciting time for those fintechs amongst us, and I think some of the broker groups and brokers here will very much welcome it with open arms, others with some skepticism, and that of course is the nature of change. So I want to thank Jane, the Senator, the Honourable Jane Hume, for her presentation, and I think it's now time to look at moving on to our panel session. So today we have a panel of experts talking to us about bank SLAs and loan application processes, obviously very topical right now for a lot of us. I've had a number of our members contact us about SLA issues. really the contact is quite generic, more so than very specific. So we'd like, if there is feedback that comes back to us as an industry body, we'd like to see more specific examples rather than just generic, oh, this lender is this bad or this lender is this good. It'd be always great to hear the goods and the positives, but really be specific based. So today's panel, we have 3 lenders joining us today. We have Ebony Maxwell from Bluestone. We have Lee Sumerikakis from Prosper, and Cooper Shelich from Speedy Finance. So welcome everybody. If you want to jump on your cameras and turn your mics on, and we can get our little shindig going along here for everybody.
Hey, Brett.
Oh, there, I couldn't see Cooper for a second there. I was trying to find him in amongst the screen of 50 cameras on my screen. So look, Lee was meant to handle today, but obviously, as we said, she's in flight. She did say she was going to try and log on to this session from 50,000 feet. Oh my God, and she has indeed. For those of you, you can see her in the middle of the screen. She's got her FBAA mask, and she is on the plane. Very welcome, Leah. Are you going to manage this session for us live or not? No. Okay. All right. Fine. I'll do it for you. I'll bail you out again. So guys, let's just sort of start, ladies first. Let's go through, just give a little bit of background about yourselves, your lender, what really sets you guys apart, and what is your value proposition for our members?
Thanks, Brett. So for those that don't know me, my name's Ebony Maxwell. I'm the regional sales manager. I've been with them for about sort of 7 years at the moment, which has been a fantastic journey. I guess from Bluestone, we do have a value that we are quite fast in our turnaround times. We like to consider ourselves, I guess, not just limiting that customer to a one box fits all type of scenario. So we do have multiple products available, ranging from prime to plus. So, there definitely normally is like a product that sort of help, a customer. There is that skepticism that we just do the non-conforming style credit, which yes, we do, but predominantly what we do is prime. Probably about 80% of our business is in the prime space, where we can actually go up to 90% LVR with no lender's mortgage insurance. And I guess where we really sort of coming in at the moment is the fact that on some of these products, we don't have any lender's mortgage insurance, and we don't credit score or have any positive reporting. So we've been finding we're sort of helping out a lot of the customers getting back to the bank for no reason.
Over to you, Lee.
Thanks, Brett. Yep, and close with my surname, buddy. You nearly had it the first time.
I almost said it the first time. A little bit more practice next time.
I've been called worse, mate, so it's all good. Thanks for today, and welcome to everyone. And I hope everyone in Victoria is doing okay, especially in Melbourne. It's been quite tough, but we're there to help. A bit like what Eb just said, from a point of view, obviously we're a cash flow finance provider. We pride ourselves on our service. We pride ourselves not only from a customer service point of view, but obviously from a point of view of getting out to our to the partners out there like you guys. And it's about education to the market in regards to small businesses out there. So from our point of view, we've got our 2 products. We've got our line of credit, and we've got our small business loan. Our line of credit has, from a point of view, just after coming out of our COVID, we've launched a 2-year term. We've gone up to 150K, whereas 2 years ago we had a 12-month term at $25,000 line of credit. So little things like that. We're listening to our partners out there that come back with certain feedback regarding our products. And from a point of view of where we're a little bit different, I guess, from the others, I truly believe we're the market leader in being proactive out there with education to our partners. And right now, when I started probably 4 years ago, I think small businesses, 1 in 4 small businesses knew that about alternative lending. Now it's like it's 50% of all small businesses out there understand that there's alternative lenders out there to help them with cash flow finance. We talk about SLAs. I think from our point of view, anything under 150K, we're pretty much providing 150K within 24 hours. Anything between $150,000 to $500,000, our SLAs are at about 72 hours from time of submission. So Yeah.
What's
So
up?
I missed something there,
No, you're there, mate. I don't know what
much
happened.
time,
I
but,
don't know whether I dropped out or not. But no, look, that's great news, Lee. That we'll get. There's a further question for all of you about SLAs and how they get improved a little bit later in this panel session.
I apologise too. My belong internet Wi-Fi keeps cutting in and out, so I've just got into my personal hotspot. So I apologise if it's cutting in and out. But
I get that, mate. It's a common Victorian problem right now. So look, I'll hand over now to Cooper. Cooper, give us some background about yourself and Speedy.
Yeah, no worries. So yeah, Cooper from Speedy Finance. So I've been with Speedy now for 5 years. So what sets Speedy apart from other SME lenders, I guess, we're not cash flow based. So we're doing kind of short-term commercial lending against the equity in your property. So we're not looking at bank statements, what your turnover is, your ATO debt. We're providing funds to fix a problem or provide funds to take advantage of an opportunity. So that's I guess the main difference with us. And yeah, in terms of SLAs, again, because we are lending against property, it's not in that 24-hour space, but usually a 2, sometimes 3-day process to settlement.
That's great. Look, they all sound very speedy. Like all three of you, like the SLAs don't seem to have the same issues that some of the other lenders have. But let's jump straight on the big elephant in the room. What are, as a lender's perspective for all three of you, and I'll let you each jump in your own order. Is there is blame games on both sides of the river. Brokers are blaming lenders for poor turnarounds. Lenders are blaming brokers for poor submissions. What do you guys think, and what are you seeing from a lender's perspective around that whole issue of turnaround times and SLAs? And how can brokers improve if that is the issue? How do brokers need to improve their submissions to get to those speedy, fast turnarounds?
Yeah, I think
you go.
Look, I guess there are both things that that the lender broker can basically improve on, and off with obviously Bluestone. So even though we're pretty quick at the moment, it is sort of a 24-hour sort of turnaround time, there's obviously areas that we can improve on. We do have some manual steps back end that we need to do, and we've just spent $8 million and we'll be doing a new system. So our new system will come into place as of July. So brokers may get correspondence on that, but that for us will make things a lot faster, a lot quicker to decisioning times, a lot more communication from a back channel perspective. So that will speed up the process even faster. So that's where we're listening, because we know how important it is for brokers to get a result. I do also have to say that the brokers that are getting really quick responses are ones that are actually properly. So I'm not too sure about what other lenders have, but Bluestone certainly has a supplementary application checklist. So it will tell you the documentations that we need to sort of upfront to be able to get that through, so that the times and it will start delaying more than the 24 hours is generally when documents are drip fed through to us one at a time. That's when you'll sort of see the SLA on that particular file sort of be more than the 24 hours.
Yes, well, good news. Well done. Just cut in and out a bit there as well, just for a point, just a bit of FYI there. But from our point of view, Brett and members out there, again, for anyone that's used this in the past, like I say, 24 hours for anything under 150K. It is obviously comes down to the client, I guess. Ideally, most of we'd like the clients to or brokers out there to send us a name and number. We do ask a few more questions like, time in business, if they can come back to us with a bit of preliminary information such as time in business, ABN, what they're after, use of funds. The more information that comes from them in the first email from the call, generally we can pass that on to our broker direct team. They'll call the client within probably the hour of when the referral comes through. And then once we speak to the client, we take the application, which is generally about a 10-minute phone call for anything under 150K. We will then send them out a unique bank statements link. They click on that link. We assess those statements, and generally we're looking just for what's coming into the business statements. So And as a general rule of thumb, we're looking at about 80% of their monthly turnover. So let's just say $100,000 was coming in per month, as an average for the last 6 months. I'd probably quote between $80,000 to $100,000 as a loan amount. And for some people, I can see some names on the screens there that I'm sure we've come back to them with an answer within an hour. So I think the quickest from submission to settlement was 22 minutes, and that was for a $17,000 loan. So we can work pretty quickly.
Very nimble, which is great to see.
Yeah.
Yeah, so pretty similar as well. I think the big thing, even Leah said it, I think at one of the conferences, don't quote me though, but lenders found that 60% of the applications from brokers, they found that they were incomplete in some aspect essentially, but that's not everyone. Definitely, brokers do their best to get all the information up front. For us, I find that it's just getting the full picture up front. Sometimes we see people and they'll present a property to us, and then we go to look at settling and we find that they have 4 other properties cross collateralized to it. So when something comes up like that, that's going to affect the SLAs and our speed of funding, because there's a whole new spanner in the works kind of thing. So it's just about getting that information up front, I guess, and just presenting the deal as a whole. Yeah.
So I've got a few questions that Leah has asked me to ask all of you. A couple of these are scenario driven, and they may not be applicable for all 3 of you. A couple of them are, it's, as she likes to say, a lot of you who were online yesterday will have already heard these questions from our panelists yesterday. But so the first one, right? We're looking at startup companies, trading for less than 6 months, but it's got a high income of already over 100K. What sort of the maximum loan sizes you guys be, or would you look at lending to an applicant of that type, and what sort of documentation do you guys require for those sort of scenarios?
For us, yeah, just anything under 6 months. So we don't do startups. If someone is taking over a business, an existing business, they need to be operating for at least 3 months before we can lend to them. For us, an ABN must be active for at least 6 months. So until they're operating for 6 months, then we won't look to lend them to them. But anything over 6 months, we look probably maximum 35K, but 25K as a general rule, we would lend to them for anything over 6 months. Between 6 and 12 months is 25K.
Coop?
For Speedy, because we're mainly looking at 2 things, the loan purpose and the exit for us, turnover, time in business doesn't come into play. The loan amount would fall under, again, because we're lending against property, our maximum LVR, so whatever equity is left, up to 75% typically is what we could lend up to. But again, no minimum time in business, no minimum monthly turnover. Documents for us would just be, mortgage statement, rates notice, and your ID. Pretty simple.
And I'm not sure whether that falls into the Bluestone realm, does it, Ebony? Those sort of.
Fortunately, ABN needs to be 12 months, GST 1 day on that. So
yeah,
ask out unless it's a swap over where they've gone from like a sole trader into a company, and the company might be new. But if we can link the 2 together, then that's fine.
Yeah, perfect. So, Cooper, you mentioned there around exit, your program. Like for all 3 of you, it's certainly been raised a number of times. With me from our members about aging borrowers, people in their 50s. We're not really old in our 50s, but looking at taking 30-year mortgages and having serious questions asked about what's the exit plan, and basic responses such as I'm going to pay the loan off in 30 years isn't always seen as being the appropriate exit strategy for someone in their 50s. What are some of your main things you look for in exit plans in any of your loans?
Yeah, so the big thing for us, obviously, we have a 2 different products as well. We do have a product where we can lend up to 95% of the property value. But ones like that, and a client or a broker comes and says, we're going to have this loan for 6-12 months, and then we're going to look at refinancing them. Well, typically, there's not really any banks out there that are going to look at doing a refinance. So it has to make sense. So the loan purpose has to make sense as well as the exit. So if someone's coming to us, they're borrowing funds against their property to purchase stock, they have an exit where they say, hey, we're going to be selling this amount of stock, this amount of profit by X amount of time. Then we can say, yep, this loan makes sense, that exit makes sense, and then we do the deal. So the main thing for us is just, there's 100 different scenarios pretty much every loan I look at every day is completely different than the one before. So it's just about looking at the whole picture, and for whatever company it is, or what the loan purpose is, that the exit for that company makes sense. So yeah.
Lee?
Doesn't really apply to us as much, I guess, from our point of view. Like, if you talk about age groups, for example, if a client isn't over 25 years of age, for example, we won't lend them more than 25k, and I think we go up to 75k for anyone over 75k. But I'll come back with that. I'm pretty sure anything over 75 years of age, it goes up to 75k. Sorry.
Yep. Yeah. And Abby, what about you in traditional world?
Yeah, so we're okay. We actually get this quite often when we have 50, 55-year-olds, 58-year-olds come to us on a 30-year loan term. So as long as the loan gets paid out by the time that they're 90, that's basically what we look at. We can have, downsizing as an exit strategy. They may obviously sell their business and things like that. But we do look at, hypothetically, if we have somebody, with a $500,000 loan at 80% LVR and they're using downsizing as an exit strategy, that's us, because there's not really much that they're going to be able to downsize if they're borrowing 80%. They've got a $500,000 loan. If we see those ones where they might own $1.5 million property and they've got like a 20 or 30% LVR, there's plenty of equity in there to be able to downsize too. So obviously it does come to the individual, and we look at the overall picture, but we do see 55-year-olds, that's not an issue for us.
Yeah. So one of the things at this time of year, obviously, is the good old trusty ATO debt that's going to hit a lot of us, a lot of self-employeds coming forth in the next 6 months. Where do you all stand on ATO debt as a refinance or to fund ATO debt?
I can start. Oh, you go.
You go. No, yeah. So with Speedy, we do have a lot of, especially at end of financial year, a lot of people coming to us to specifically look at paying their ATO debt. But yeah, pretty much because as long as the scenario makes sense, they have equity in their property, we can look at doing a commercial lend for them. We'll look at typically setting up with their interest only product, and then they can make lump sums against that debt over the 12 months to pay the principal amount down of that ATO debt they've just borrowed for.
Yeah, from our end, small businesses can use our funds to pay off ATO debt. There are a couple of guidelines through that. So a tax payment plan is required if the tax debt is divided by the average monthly revenue and it is greater than 60%. So let's just say the tax debt is $60,000. They need to, their average monthly revenue of the last 6 months must be at about $100,000. The tax payment plan must have at least one cleared payment. If the tax debt is greater than 150% of the average monthly revenue, then the application will be declined. So is between 60 and 150% of their monthly revenue will determine whether or not we can lend to them. But from our point of view, right now, we're seeing a lot of that come through, and we're also seeing a lot of it where people are coming to us to pay off their tax debt. So in order for them to get maybe more traditional lend for an asset, for example, or a truck or a tractor or something like that. So, yeah, hope that makes sense.
Yep. And Bluestone, well, we don't can do it on our prime loan, but from our near prime, we can pay out sort of tax debt. So there isn't a limit per se. I know we did one recently. I think it was like a $1.2 million tax debt. So, sometimes it makes it more to roll it into their mortgage rather than paying on a payment plan where I think it's like 11 to 13% interest rate. So, yeah, Bluestone has no problems.
So this is more for you, Ebony, on this one. You don't see the tax debt payment like a number of the big four see it as a cash out for an existing facility or any of that. You see it as a genuine purpose of funds?
Absolutely. So the way that we classify cash out with us is if we're physically giving the money to the customer in their bank account. If we're controlling funds, whether that's to the ATO or they're purchasing a property or they, wanting to buy a commercial property, if we're controlling funds, that portion of it's not classed as cash out.
So which is quite good to see, because a number of lenders do see tax debt as a cash out because it's going theoretically directly to the customer who pays their tax debts. But so that sounds like a good value prop for Bluestone. So what other specials and deals that you guys do in the marketplace that are sort of unique for each of your businesses that our members should know about, that they should be able to see and say, oh, well, Bluestone can do this for me, Prosper can do this for me, and Speedy can do this, and this is what I should be selling to my customers who are in either those unique situations or something that is where they find your product is going to be their number one fit.
Yep, I'll kick it off. So from a Bluestone perspective, we've just relaunched an accountant's deck only product as well. So that's come back after COVID, which is great. We do 85% LVR and for investment and 90% LVR for owner occupieds. That's with no LMI. So I know a couple of other lenders potentially do some no LMI products, but again, it depends on what industry you're in. You've got to have a certain, you've got to earn a certain amount, and sometimes stipulations around it. Whereas with us, it is open to everyone for that one. And with that as well, we don't have any credit scoring. We don't have any DTI. We don't have any positive reporting. So I guess, some of these lenders have all these hurdles that, you need to be able to go. Don't. Cash out, like I mentioned, to us can be for business, investment, personal use. So potentially they might want to buy a commercial property as long as we're not taking that as security. We can cater for sort of default, late payments, a little bit sort of tricky, sort of like employment types, etc. And that's when obviously it will come into play.
Yeah, so with Speedy, I guess the main thing, like I said, is we have three things we're looking at. First of all, that there's equity in the property. We can typically lend up to 75%. We do have another product where we can lend up to 95%, but it has to be extremely strong business and a good, very, very strong exit strategy. With that 95%, that 75% product though, like I said, we're looking for a loan purpose that makes sense and an exit strategy that makes sense. So we have loans that, are right outside of the box, completely ones that just don't fit that normal SME type lending space where, you need to have a certain amount of turnover, a certain amount of time in business. So, we'll do startup business loans, business purchases, things like that. And yeah, so I guess just give us a call if you do have one that, it's outside the box and, it's a quick phone call on the phone. We can look at the property, run the scenario by us and the exit, and we'll pretty much have a yes or no for you right then and there.
Lee?
Yeah, and from our point of view, I think for everyone that knows, we've obviously been around for 8 years now, or just over. We've just we've done last month we did about $50 million in revenue, and 35% of that has come out of building and trade. So there's not one industry that we sort of focus on. We're open to all businesses around Australia. There are a couple of industries that are excluded, obviously. But as long as they've been open for 6 months, it's got at least 5,000 a month as an average turnover. We are looking to help small businesses out there. I think one of the stigmas out there is that we're there for to help businesses survive. But what we're seeing right now, people are coming to us for opportunities. It's all it's not about survival. It's about how can they get an opportunity and take that opportunity to help grow their business or diversify. As one of the words that is being widely used for a long time now, and that's what we're there for. And again, look, if your clients are all about rate and they've got they've got security behind them, then maybe we're not the right one. And the one thing I'll say is that between ourselves and other lenders out there, we do talk and we do try and help find all the brokers out there a suitable product, whether ours is the right one or not. The last thing I'll mention is that probably twice a year we launch our promos, not only for clients out there or small businesses, but also for brokers. So we've got a couple of things that are going on out there at the moment, which is really helping us achieve some really good numbers. So we've got some extra commission that's out there. That's all aggregate specific. So there are a couple of aggregate. If you're with some aggregators out there, you might not be eligible for that, but we are paying 6% on our small business loans, and we're paying up to 5% now on a line of credit. The other thing is we've also got 8 weeks initial no repayments for all small business loans that are being taken up until the end of June. So if you've got anyone out there looking for some cash flow finance or some help, give me a call.
That's a great offer. I do have one last curly question from, and this is just a show of hands. We won't go into the yeses and nos of whether we can or can't do these, but so Leah likes to throw in the curly ones every now and then. I think you all know that by now. I don't think it's that curly, but it's curly enough. She says, okay, is there anyone on the panel that can lend for the following? And if so, let us know any maximum LVR. So if you can say yes, then you can answer. If it's a no, then there's no answer. Okay, hobby farms.
Yep. So we'll lend 50% LVR on a hobby farm.
Okay, Lee, no, anybody?
If it's a hobby farm, it's as long as it's zoned rural residential, then that's fine with us.
Wow, there you go. I thought this was going to be a curly one. That's a good start. Non-income producing farms.
Yep, as well we will, but there obviously has to be an exit of how they intend to repay, whether they're selling the farm in 6 months' time or something like that. But yeah.
Yep.
Unfortunately, anything that's non-income producing.
It's a no from Lee. Ebony, what about in Bluestone in the rural area?
Yeah, again, it depends on the zoning. So if it potentially comes in as farming, etc., we can't if it's rural residential. Yep. But no, we can actually go up to 40 acres, but over 5 is an exception. So what we like to do is get an upfront valuation. We don't want to waste anyone's time in getting an up in that we can't do. And sometimes what we find is, we're very limited in the comp sales that come back from a valuation perspective. So that's generally why we like to get an upfront val, see the zoning, see the comp sales, and then we can make a decision that we're good to go.
And then the third one, which seems to be a little bit common or more popular nowadays, is the good old Airbnbs.
We'll lend against Airbnbs up to 75%. And yeah, a lot of people, especially in the market at the moment, have been listing theirs up and making a rental income from them, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, I can say yes to this one. It's difficult to know the loan amount though, as it depends on the mortgage repayments that the customer has on the property. So
Ebony?
Yep, that's fine.
And the question I get asked quite often from some of our members is an Airbnb considered to be a specialist property, or is it just a standard investment property?
At Speedy, we'd class it under just as investment property. And what you do with it, whether you want to rent it out, traditionally or with Airbnb, doesn't matter.
Excellent. And I think we already answered the question earlier about startup companies less than 12 months old. I think it was a combination of yeses and nos. Yeah. Look, on that note, I'd like to just give you each one last little bit to sum up. Tell us something special that you've got on for our members, if there is anything. Otherwise, we'll look at wrapping up the panel and thanking you all. So, Ebony, give us your final 30-second pitch.
Perfect. Well, I'd like to say, obviously, thanks for having us. I guess from our perspective, we are very competitive in rates and stuff at the moment. So if you do want to come to us and there's something that we need to tweak from a rate or fee perspective, please reach out to us please obviously reach out to your BDMs who can workshop your deals further. And it was great to sort of see everyone.
Thanks, Ebony.
Yeah, so I was just trying to be, quiet.
I'll save Lee for last.
Yeah, so like I said, at Speedy, short-term commercial lending against property. I guess the main thing for us is, we think a lot of outside the box for a lot of our deals. A quick 5-minute call on the phone with the property address, the scenario, and the exit, and we can pretty much have a yes or no for you on the phone. And for special deals, I guess the only one we have is we have a new product where we can do 7.99% on a first mortgage deal up to 12 months for a rate. As a private lend with evaluation being done. So yeah, thanks everyone for having me.
Thanks, Coop. Over to you, Lee.
I guess from myself, like I mentioned, we have got those specials out there for not only for the customers in the 8-week repayment holiday, repayment deferral. We've also got some really good offers there for the brokers. From my point of view, our average deal size has gone up from $35,000 to $45,000. This month. So the opportunities are out there, guys. I ask that you probably go into your database, segment it into ABN holders, send them an email saying that you guys do, cash flow finance these days. You'll be surprised how many people come back asking and inquiring about a scenario. So we're there. We've got our team waiting for you guys to send us through referrals, scenarios, and we get onto them straight away. And hopefully we can help your small business clients out there. And for me, to the guys at FBAA, thank you for everything. You guys have done a great job, Mariah, out there the last couple of weeks, months. It's been tough for all of us. I hope everyone's doing well, and I look forward to catching up with everyone over a coffee or a beer or whatever it might be in the next couple of weeks, months. Have a lovely day.
Absolutely, Lee. Look, I just want everyone give a virtual clap for Ebony and Lee and Cooper. Thank you guys. It was really appreciated. And I want to thank also Bluestone, Speedy and Prosper for giving you the time to come and talk to us. I know we're all at home, but thank you so much, guys. And you're right, Lee. I look forward to seeing you all at our future coffee catch-ups or beer catch-ups, whichever we can organise with face-to-face.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Thank you.
So this brings us to our keynote panel, our keynote session now. I'd like to introduce our keynote speaker, Rebekah Smith, who is from Smith & Wellness, who will be talking to us all today about practical strategies for stress reduction. So Beck Smith is a TEDx speaker and expert in mental fitness. She consults in organisations on ways to reduce stress, prevent burnout, improve communication and optimise team culture. She's a former physiotherapist with a background in psychology, who also teaches dance and yoga classes when she isn't working as a positive psychology coach. As someone who has recovered from burnout and mental illness, Beck uses her personal experiences as well as her professional knowledge to help others optimise their lives. I'd like to introduce Beck Smith and welcome her to today's seminar.
Thank you for that lovely introduction and welcome everybody. I'm Beck. I'm currently sitting in cold, chilly Adelaide and I would like to acknowledge that I'm on Kaurna country where I am. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land because their connection to the waters and the lands of the Adelaide Plains region is just as important to living Aboriginal people today as it has been for thousands of years before. So I want to acknowledge the elders, past, present and emerging, and the spiritual, emotional and physical connection that they have to Adelaide Plains region. Wherever you are joining me from today, I hope that you are well and thanks for connecting in. Today's session is going to be around some mental fitness strategies that you can take to manage stress. Originally, I had talked about this session being a stress reduction session. However, reducing stress is not always possible, as I'm sure many of you can attest to. So what can we do to better as much? That's going to be the focus of this session. I'm going to give you a brain hack for managing stress better and also a body hack for managing stress better. And these two different strategies are things that you can do in combination and share with other people as well. So thank you for being here and let's get into it. Most of the work that I do is around investigating the cogs that are going on in our brain. A lot of people don't necessarily know what's underneath the surface, so these cogs can sometimes look a little bit like this. We're not necessarily aware of all of our thinking processes and what's going on in our brain. There is a lot of subconscious activity happening a lot of the time, and this is often what leads to stress. We may not even be aware of what is stressing us out, which is why sometimes some clever hacks for body and brain can be useful for getting under the hood, so to speak, and being able to manage that stress a lot better. The three different areas that I speak to when I'm talking about building our mental fitness, it's a little bit like going to the brain gym, working on our strength, working on our flexibility, and working on our endurance with different types of exercises. So I'm going to give you some more context around strength, flexibility, and endurance toward the end of the session. But I want to start by actually talking about some of the things that get in the way of our cogs turning properly. So here on the screen that you're seeing at the moment, and you're welcome to take a photo of this if this helps you, these are some factors that get in the way of our mental fitness. So you can see that on the left of the diagram, there are some things that make us mentally more fragile. On the right, things that make us mentally rigid. And down toward the bottom, things that zap our mental energy and make us more lethargic. So the few things that I'm going to be talking about today, we're going to cover as we go, but emotional reactivity is one that can come up a lot for me personally, particularly when I'm stressed. So that's where we're going to start. Now, in terms of emotional reactivity, and when we start to have a reaction to something that happens in our lives and it stresses us out, one of the common problems is that when a stimulus or a situation happens and leads to some kind of emotional response, we think that that's the end of the story. So I'm going to unpack what we call the STR model for you today. And STR stands for stimulus, thought, response. Because most of us think that, well, of course I got angry because this happened, we tend to make that quick jump from the stimulus to the response. But many of us forget that there's this thinking part in the middle. So what you're going to see on your screen at the moment is that in between the stimulus and the response, there's this gap. And this is where our thoughts occur. Now, those thoughts may be an accurate representation of what has happened, but they may not be accurate either. And the stimulus that has caused a thought could have happened from outside of us. So it could have been an event has occurred. Somebody has knocked over the glass of milk. Or that stimulus could have been more of an internal event. It could have been a sensation that we've had in our body that stresses us out, a pain of some sort, or even a thought that then leads to another thought. Now, once we get into that thought space of looking, well, are these thoughts accurate or not? It leads to this response, which could be an emotional response or it could be a behavioural response. So if something has happened in your workday, in your family life, in your friendships, that has triggered some kind of emotion in you, that might be something that you hold inside and you don't express, or it might be an emotional response that then also comes out in your behaviour. You might get snappy, you might cry, you might yell. And so you can have an emotional response and a behavioural response. They're not always observable. They're not always seen by other people as well. So this is very much about looking inside of you and starting to analyse, okay, when I'm stressed out, when a situation happens that has stressed me out, what are the thoughts that have led me to this? So I'm going to give you an example. The last time I was travelling to Melbourne, which was pre-COVID, back in the days of free travel, I was on a flight and there was a flight attendant that came along and asked us what we would like to drink. I asked for a cup of tea and the two people next to me asked for orange juice. When she started pulling stuff out of the drinks cart, she handed the two passengers next to me their juice and I was waiting for my tea. Now that wasn't so problematic. I thought, okay, that's fine. The hot drinks are coming last. Then the cart moved back to the aisle behind me and still didn't have my cup of tea. I thought, oh, that's okay. Just waiting, just waiting. And then the cart moved further along. I thought, oh, I wonder if they're waiting for hot water. Maybe they're out of boiling water and it's just taking a little while. And my tea didn't come. Now, I started to get frustrated at this point. And the flight attendant who had been serving me, whose name was Pam, I started to create some thoughts about her and started to have a response in my body, which was muscular tension. My heart rate actually started to go a little bit faster because I was frustrated and I just wanted my cup of tea, damn it. So in the slide that's coming up now, you can see that the stimulus thought response model is also paired with this kind of thinking that if this happens, then I think this. So for instance, in this situation with Pam, the flight attendant, if Pam doesn't bring me my tea, then I start to think Pam is forgetful, Pam is useless, Pam's a cow, Pam should have brought me my tea, right? So a lot of the time when there's frustration involved, we often have an idea of what should have happened rather than what is happening right there. And so once I've had those thoughts, then it leads to this response around I'm angry and I'm frustrated. Now, in this moment, I had to reflect that ironically, I was flying to Melbourne to teach this kind of content around managing our thoughts, managing our stress, and calming ourselves down in frustrating situations. So I was actually able to ask myself, what would I tell somebody else in this situation? And I started to change the thought patterns that I had. And this is when we start to become more practiced at using the STR model, it becomes more automated for us. It's a really great way of starting to channel our thoughts toward things that are more productive for us rather than unproductive for us. So in this instance, I was able to change my if-then thinking to more, well, what if thinking? Or what if this is going on instead? Or what if that is going on instead? So when you start to open up to different possibilities, rather than just thinking about what should happen, you start to get a little bit more expansive around what might be happening or what could be happening, then you start to feel different. So in this instance, I started to ask myself, okay, What if I change my thoughts and ask some questions? What if Pam is sick? What if she's forgotten me today because she's really stressed? What could possibly be going on for her? And then the feeling is not so much anger and frustration anymore. My response becomes, I'm less stressed, and I actually feel more compassionate, and I actually feel a bit more caring toward this woman who's forgotten my tea. So it's just a small example, but think about how many times in your day you might have these little stress triggers and how much that can accumulate over the course of the day. First thing in the morning, you kind of something might go wrong at home. The cat's bowl gets knocked over and water goes everywhere. Oh, that's just a little stress. And then you leave the house and then you get in the car and realise you've forgotten your lunch. And then somebody makes a comment in the office that just rubs you up the wrong way. And these little things can accumulate during the day so that by the end of the day, you're going, oh, this was terrible. The whole day was just awful. But if we could actually start to stop in the moment that we're starting to have these thoughts and go, all right, is the thought or the belief that I've got about this situation accurate? Is the thought or belief that I'm having right now productive for me? And can I change my thinking? Instead of going, if this happens, then I feel this. What if? How could we open ourselves up to different possibilities? So how many examples can you think of where you could possibly transform a should into a could? So on that day, Pam maybe should have got me my tea, but she didn't. So just in thinking, well, Pam could have got me my tea, but it didn't happen. Then I started to open myself up to possibilities. So as you can see in the image on your screen, instead of being lost in the maze of my thinking, I was actually able to elevate myself to a perspective where I could see the thoughts that I was having from a different lens, from a different viewpoint. And from that viewpoint, I could go, oh, this is a much better pathway for me to take. So I didn't get my tea. What else could I do about that? So the next flight attendant that came along, I flagged her down and I said, could I possibly get a cup of tea? And she went, no problems, let me go get that for you. And she did. So I think the old version of me could have sat there, not asked for what I needed, stewed on it, actually stayed with that little bit of resentment and frustration. So how many times in a day do we do that? And the next time you have one of those instances in your day where you're getting frustrated, where you're getting lost in the shoulds, how can you open yourself up to what if thinking? How can you start to see in your mind's eye that model of STR and come back to that thought space and steer your thinking towards something that's more productive for you? So that's the brain hack that I wanted to share with you today. And I hope that those visuals and some of that perspective is really, really useful for helping to shape some of the small stresses that happen day to day. Now, a common question that I get asked at this point is, but what if I can't change my thinking about something? What if I know that my thoughts are accurate and I know that I'm right and I'm still feeling frustrated? Well, then you might need to use a different strategy. So the tools that I teach in mental fitness, the exercises that I give for people to improve their strength and their flexibility and their endurance, it's a little bit like a repertoire of different exercises that you use at different times when you need to. You wouldn't use a flexibility exercise if you were trying to improve your strength and vice versa. It's like a toolkit. You're not going to be using a hammer when actually you need a screwdriver. So STR is one of those exercises or one of those tools in your toolkit that you can use when maybe that little shift in thinking can be useful to give you a more productive response. However, it's not necessarily always going to be the most useful strategy. So this is where I'm going to now change and start talking about a body hack that we can start to use and give you some context around how our brain connects into our bodies. So what you're seeing on your screen at the moment is a model called the triune brain. And this is based on evolutionary biology. So the theory goes that as we evolved a long time, that we first started with this very primal brain, what you'll see on your screen as red at the moment. So some people refer to this as the reptile brain or the lizard brain. It's very much concerned with our safety and our survival. It regulates all of our physical body processes, like it helps us to regulate our body heat. It will send signals to us to let us know if we're thirsty and need water. if we're hungry and we need food, if we are feeling too cold or hot, need shelter, etc. Now, it's also responsible for telling us if there's a threat in our environment that might be a predator of some sort. So this red part of the brain is all about giving you danger signals so that you can stay safe and do what you need to do to protect yourself. The blue part of the brain is sometimes called the mammal brain. Sometimes we refer to this as the emotional or the limbic system. You might have heard about the limbic system being referred to in the brain. As mammals evolved on from reptiles, they started to become more social creatures, and we're one of those mammals. We are connected to other human beings, and feeling a sense of belonging, feeling that other people care about us, feeling that we are connected, that we're loved, is the most important thing to this blue part of the brain. So if we are connected to our tribe, it meant that we were, in kind of caveman and cavewoman days, much more likely to survive. And so the blue and the red part of our brain communicate in order to protect us. And this blue part is more about social protection and how well am I connected. The green part of the brain is what you're going to be using when you are making decisions, problem solving, and it's referred to as the executive part of the brain. You may have heard it being spoken about before as the prefrontal cortex, and this is where all of the logical stuff happens. Now, the thing about these three developmental areas is that the brain and the body will put priority on survival before it puts priority on logic and other decision making. So what happens if we're in a stressed state is that the green part of our brain kind of goes offline and doesn't want to work for us anymore. So if we're having an emotional response to something that starts to hijack our thinking, even if we want to calm ourselves down, even if we want to be able to concentrate, even if we want to be able to do our best work, we can't, because the blue and the red part of our brain have hijacked us. Now, if you're in a constant state of stress, it means that you're not going to be able to think clearly through anything that you need to do. So actually managing our stress is a really important thing, not just from the perspective of staying healthy and happy and calm, but actually just getting stuff done, being the most productive version of ourselves that we can. So with these three centers in mind, I'm going to introduce you to this concept called the negativity bias. Now, this is another evolutionary biology idea. The negativity bias is the tendency of the brain to only look at the bad things, as you can see on the cartoon on your screen. So the rest of you might be going, oh, look at this beautiful, amazing experience. Look at, oh, these beautiful people in my life. But your brain will just want to steer back to, no, this is problematic. The reason that it happens is, again, because it kept us safe to focus on problems. So if you imagine as a caveman or a cavewoman that you're walking along and you hear a rustle in the grass, it really does serve your survival needs if you pay attention to that, right? And think, oh my gosh, it could be a predator. I need to act and get away from here now. Whereas if you didn't have a negativity bias and if you were just kind of like, oh, I wonder what that is. Let's be curious and let's go and explore it. Then you might get eaten by a saber-toothed tiger. So the negativity bias evolved. Well, natural selection really kind of kept selecting people who had more anxious brains because they were the ones who were on more of a lookout for danger. So what it means is that we have this kind of evolutionary hangover where even if great stuff is happening for us, even if we have everything that we need, even if we are surrounded by people that we love, even if we're having a myriad of positive experiences and great interactions, your brain will still want to look at the problems and go, oh, yeah, but I still don't have the car that I want, or I still haven't hit my goal, or I still don't have enough of this. And so a lot of us can slip into negative patterns of thinking and think that then there's something wrong with us. A lot of people find that it's actually hard to practice gratitude because of this negativity bias. But when I first found out that we have a natural negativity bias in our brain, I was so relieved. I thought for the first time, oh my gosh, I'm not broken. There's nothing wrong with me. This is great, because your brain will actually put about 5 to 6 times more emphasis on negative information than it does on positive information. And that's just a natural human condition. But the body hack that I'm going to teach you today is about how can we rewire that so that we can appreciate the good things in our life and leverage from the positive emotion that it brings. What I'm introducing on the screen now are these two different pathways in our nervous system. So in the middle, you can see the central nervous system, which is made up of the brain and spine. Coming off of that, you have the autonomic nervous system, which has these two different branches. So roughly we can split the autonomic nervous system into the parasympathetic, which you can see in purple, and the sympathetic nervous system in green. The parasympathetic being about rest and restoration and healing your system. This will kick in when you're in a positive frame of mind, and it will kick in when you're in a calm state. Whereas the sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight system, is all about I need to mobilise. I either need to get away from danger or I need to fight danger off. So this is what is going to kick in when you are stressed. So what happens with these different regions of the brain is if the red or the blue part of your brain is detecting some kind of physical or social threat, it will then send signals into the fight and flight system to activate stuff in your body, increasing your heart rate, making you breathe faster so you can get oxygen in to run or fight. It starts to have an impact on your pupils, dilating your pupils so that you can see better. And it also starts to bring blood flow toward your muscles in your arms and legs so that you can activate your body. And it takes blood flow away from your organ systems. Now, this has a negative impact on our health over time, which is why stress actually has an important role in the development of diabetes and cardiovascular disease and other disease processes. So it's really important to start to regulate and learn how to regulate our nervous system so that we can actually get that healing and blood flow that we need into our organ systems to keep us physiologically as well as mentally healthy. I sometimes describe the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system in terms of a brake and an accelerator in your body. So the parasympathetic being that brake that slows everything down and allows the rest and the restoration to occur, and the sympathetic nervous system, that fight and flight accelerator being, all right, everything switch on. The relevance of this is that over the last few years, there's been more and more research done in the topic of heart rate variability. When we look at the heart rate, it gives us an indication as to whether the sympathetic or parasympathetic nervous system is more dominant at any one time. In other words, are you using your accelerator more or using your brake more? Because ultimately, just like a car, the vehicle of your body will not function well if you're trying to use one or the other. It actually needs both. So we need to have a balance between that brake and accelerator. I'm going to bring up a diagram now that shows some heart rhythm patterns. On the screen, what you're seeing is not just an indication of heart rate, which is how fast your heart is going, but it's an indication of whether it's going faster or slower. So when the line is going up, that's when your heart rate is accelerating. The sympathetic nervous system is kicking in. And when the line is going down, that's when you are starting to slow down. That's the parasympathetic nervous system kicking in. So the brake and the accelerator on the top part of the diagram here in red is fluctuating in a bit more of a haphazard way. It's kind of like, oh, I'm slowing down, no, I'm speeding up, I'm slowing down, oh, and it's a bit all over the place. This is what happens when we are in a frustrated or anxious or worried kind of emotional state. The sympathetic nervous system kicks in, that red part of the brain starts to send signals into your autonomic nervous system, and this is what happens with our heart rate variability. However, in the bottom part of the diagram, you'll see what we call nervous system coherence, which is where the brake and the accelerator are fluctuating nice and smoothly. If you think about driving your car, it's not a great idea to be stomping on both pedals at the same time or haphazardly going on and off of them. It's going to wear out your vehicle and lead to a very bumpy and unsafe ride. And it's the same with our body. So if we can just smoothly come off of the brake to then activate the accelerator and then slowly come off the accelerator to put the brake on, that is a much smoother trip and it's much safer for us, which is what we want to see in our nervous system patterns as well. And this is what is elicited in your body when you start to have more experiences of positive emotion. Now, this is something that you can start to instigate and you can choose for yourself by practicing positive emotion, a little bit like you're rewiring that negativity bias. So in that little section down the bottom of the screen at the moment, you'll see that this is what we often see when people are experiencing appreciation, care, love, gratitude. So a little body hack that you can use to shift your heart rhythm patterns from what looks very stressful to that more coherent pattern is a 3-part system that the Heart Math Institute has researched, which is called heart-based appreciation. So the body hack that I want to share with you today, these 3 steps are, first of all, and you can do it with me right now, slow down your breathing as the first of 3 steps. So take a deeper breath than you normally would and breathe out slowly, maybe even longer than your inhalation. Now, I know that deep breathing gets talked about a lot, and it probably, people will talk about, oh, just take a breath, which can kind of sound very dismissive, but actually what you're doing when you slow down your breathing is really important. What's happening is you are activating the parasympathetic nervous system and actually hacking your brain and sending signals into that red part of your brain that everything is okay. Because if you're running away from a predator, there's no way you're going to be breathing this slowly. So this is sending a subconscious signal into those parts of the brain to say it's okay. We don't have to go into survival mode. We can actually transcend survival mode and go into logical thinking mode. Now, the second step around this, once you've slowed down your breathing, is to think about your ribcage or your lungs or your heart and visualize where that breathing is coming from. So bring focus into your body's sensations. Just take a few seconds now, maybe close your eyes if you want to, and focus in on your heart. Maybe even visualize it's beating. Can you feel it speeding up? Could you feel it slowing down? Now, what you're doing with that second step is you're using the part of your brain. It's very close to the part of your brain to calm down the limbic system, to calm down your emotions. The insula is responsible for something called interoception, which is our internal body's systems starting to get an internal sensation of our body. So not just the sensations of the nerves of, our arms and our legs, but the nerves that are telling us what's going on within our internal body. That then is starting to itself have these connections into that mammal brain to say, hey, you can calm down as well. The third part is around bringing in the green part of your brain and actually starting to think more about what can you see right now that is good in your world. So starting to think now as the third step, what is something that you appreciate in your life? Maybe it's a person, maybe it's a pet, maybe it's a happy memory, and call that to mind. Bring in that green part of your brain, the logical executive part, in a positive way. And as you're breathing, imagine that you are now bringing gratitude in as you breathe in. Heart rate might be speeding up a little. And then breathe out and send that appreciation outwards. So training your brain to look for the positives and to start to practice feeling appreciation is that important third step. We also know, as a quick little tip here from neuroscience, that it takes about 17 seconds for these patterns to shift and for different neurochemicals to start flooding your system when you shift into a positive state. So if you think a happy thought, if you think about something you're grateful for, don't just hang on to it for 3 seconds and then move on to the next stressful thought. See if you can savor that moment for 17 seconds or more. So if you can sit in a feeling of gratitude for about 20 seconds, then you really start to see some physiological as well as psychological shifts. It starts to change the way that your dopamine and your serotonin is acting in your brain and starts to shift your cardiovascular and other rhythms and nervous system activation through your body as well. So those 3 steps in summary again: slow down your breathing, start to think about your internal body and feel that, and then start to shift your thinking into something of appreciation and gratitude. So that little body hack there is going to have a significant impact on managing your stress. And it might be something that you just do in one breath. It might be something you do in between client meetings. It might be something that you do in the car, on the train, on the way home. It might just be something you do in the shower. So see if you can integrate it, whether it's for 1 breath or 50, sometime during your day. The more frequently you do it, then the more likely you are to be able to rewire that negativity bias in your brain to be able to appreciate what's good in your world and reduce that stress response, both for the benefit of your body and your mind. Here are some other little hacks that I want to share with you, some positivity tips. So one thing that I teach, and I'm talking to a group soon about this, is around keeping a done list. So instead of just having a to-do list of, oh, I've got to do that, I've got to do that, I've got to do that, keep a done list. So keep that list of going, this is what I've accomplished. Because when you feel a sense of achievement in your day, it increases the amount of dopamine in your brain and actually makes you more motivated to want to do more. Another positivity tip is to celebrate strengths. So when you're looking at somebody, and even if there's somebody who's frustrating you, think about what strengths they're showing. I know I've got somebody in my life who sometimes really frustrates me because she is so blunt to the point where sometimes I think, oh my God, you're so rude. But when I think about her in terms of, do you know what? She has a real strength in honesty. I can start to see that through a different lens, and I start to see that not as problematic, but I see it as a strength instead of a weakness. And it doesn't just help my relationship with her, it may not even make any impact on her, but it changes the way that I feel about that interaction. And then the third tip is expressing appreciation. So once you have felt something that you appreciate, share it with somebody, especially directly with the person. If you are feeling appreciation for them, tell them how grateful you are for them. Say thank you. Tell them that you've noticed something that they've done. And in that sharing, there's a huge influx of positive emotions, positive neurochemicals, positive hormones that come into your body, as well as for that other person. So give it a go. Express appreciation to somebody today. So a question that I would like to leave you with as we wrap up this presentation today is, what could change in your work life or even in your personal life if you were to improve one aspect of your mental fitness? So what would happen if you started to become practiced at that STR model and starting to shift your unproductive thoughts to productive thoughts? What could shift if you started to use that body hack of that heart-based appreciation breathing? Or indeed, coming up on your screen right now, there's a slide which shows a range of different mental fitness exercises that you can take. So in terms of building our mental strength, starting to focus on character strengths, like I talked about, instead of just thinking, oh, somebody's really blunt and rude, start to think about it in terms of their strength of honesty. And start to think about, what are your strengths that you bring out in your behaviour every day? Awareness. So STR is really one of those skills that helps us to become more aware of what's going on in our internal processing and communicate that better. Authenticity, which is about being less fake and keeping things a bit more real and expressing a true side of yourself. Mental flexibility, which is about practicing creative thinking, innovation and problem solving. Letting go of perfectionism and starting to practice self-compassion as well as compassion toward others. And another flexibility exercise, which is letting go of doubt and starting to trust more. Or what might change in your life if you started to let go of being mentally lethargic and started to build your mental energy and endurance by living into your values and what's really important to you. Letting go of being exhausted and busy all the time and actually practicing some stillness, even if it's just in little micro doses. Or what would shift if you started to get control of your fear and started to practice more emotional mastery and started to use the power of your emotions instead of trying to repress them? So these are the 9 topic areas around mental fitness that I teach. Different exercises for each of those topics as well. And if you'd like to find out more about them, you can go to this website, which is up on your screen at the moment, which is smithandwellness.com/resources. There is a TEDx talk there that I've done on mental fitness. There's some YouTube vlogs on there that you can check out. And also there's an online course which takes you through those 9 different topic areas one by one that you can explore in your own time. Now, a couple of questions that often come up at this stage. A lot of people ask me around mindfulness and meditation. So one thing that I want to suggest is that actually in that whole arena around stillness, Meditation and mindfulness are some of the things that I teach, and there is a lot of research to support that when you start to practice mindfulness, even if it's broken down into very small segments during your day, you don't have to sit for 30 minutes or an hour for mindfulness or meditation to make an impact. You can break it into smaller components, and it actually makes a huge difference, not only to your experience, but it's been shown through MRI studies that it increases the grey matter and the white matter in your brain. It actually helps your processing. So there's a really great app that I use called Insight Timer. A lot of people go, oh, are there apps that I should use? Is there a YouTube video that I should go to? I love Insight Timer. So for those people who are wondering what a good meditation and mindfulness resource is, go and check that out. It's downloadable on your phone, and you can actually put in a time to say, look, I've only got 5 minutes, or I've only got 3 minutes. Give me a meditation that I can do in a short amount of time, or it has longer meditations that it can take you through as well. So for those people who are wondering, yes, mindfulness is a very useful strategy for building your mental fitness, and Insight Timer is a great resource that you can use. And that other question, which I touched on before around, well, what if this isn't going to be useful for me in a particular situation? Use this mental fitness model like a little bit of a toolkit. So you can select one part that might be useful today, you can select 3 parts, and tomorrow you might find that you need something else. So you can also use it as a bit of a self-assessment to go, what do I need right now? So I hope that this session has been useful for you today, as giving you some concrete and practical strategies for managing your stress. As I said earlier in the session, please feel free to share it with other people as well. Talk about these strategies in your family, share it with your friends, because the more people who understand some of these little mental fitness hacks, then the healthier we are all going to be together. So enjoy the rest of your eSummit. Good luck, go well, take care, and stay in touch with me online. If you have any questions following the session that come up for you, please feel free to get in touch with the FBAA and they can pass that on to me, or you can also get in touch with me on the website via your screen. So thank you again, go well, take care, bye for now.
Well, thank you, Beck. That was extremely informative, and I'm sure a lot of us in this time can learn how to use these practical strategies to reduce stress for all of us in our lives, both business and personal. So thanks a lot for that, Beck. Very informative indeed. Next, I'd like to welcome Stephen Bogby, who will be presenting on how major life events influence the purchase of personal insurances on behalf of ALI. So Stephen, over to you.
Thanks very much, Brett. I'll just share my screen so hopefully everyone can see that. And thanks for having me here today. I'm a BDM with ALI. So basically our mission is with ALI is to protect Australian home and property buyers from financial hardship. Just making sure that my screen will move. There we go. Yeah, from financial hardship. It lies at the very core of everything we do and is made possible by our brokers. Together, we hope to make client protection synonymous with mortgages. So basically, a core part of the process. Now, there's obviously different life stages, and financial protection is a key piece of each life stage. Now, research shows that there are certain life stages and events that are triggers for purchasing financial protection, and buying a home is the second biggest after having a baby. So it does make sense when you're talking about a large debt, like a mortgage, and the risks associated with it, that you're talking about ways in which borrowers can help reduce that risk as well. So how can clients get personal insurance? While we do so much online these days, and obviously during COVID it's been more and more, there are still a number of channels available for someone wanting to buy personal insurance directly. Now there's inbound phone calls, there's online, but one of the best ways is through a mortgage broker. Now despite the availability of those other channels, many mortgage customers choose to buy life insurance from the mortgage broker channel. ALI recently interviewed and surveyed a group of ALI policyholders, to get a better understanding as to why they're taking a policy. And we wanted to share some of the findings with you, so you guys get a better understanding as well of what your clients are saying to us as well. And I think one of the real important headlines is, if not your broker, then who will they get their insurance through? Now, as you can see there, less than a quarter of customers that searched online for life insurance. 9 out of 10 customers said their broker asked or raised the topic of protection insurance. 1 in 3 strongly agreed with the statement that I had not considered the risks of not having insurance until my broker mentioned it. And 70% said they were interested in the idea of the insurance when it was first raised. Now, it's really worth noting that all that was surveyed went on to take out a policy. So the interest grew from when it was mentioned. So it's really important to put those baby steps in place, having that discussion, and your clients will get it. They'll understand it, and they'll make sure that they and their family are protected. I suppose the question to ask yourselves is, where would these policy holders be now if their broker had not broached the subject? It's fair to say that it's unlikely they would have searched on their own to put cover in place, despite having taken out a significant debt like a mortgage, and debt is obviously growing with prices, going gangbusters all over Australia. The debt is really starting to grow. Now, while with other direct channels such as online or over the phone, there can be a sense of urgency to make a decision on the spot. So most customers surveys said they were given the time during the process to think about it by their mortgage broker, which is really important. The majority of customers surveyed recalled that the broker explained how the policy worked, and that they took time throughout the process to introduce and explain the product. We also did a welcome call as well to go through it with that customer as well. 90% of those surveyed were confident that they understood the policy, having purchased it, and that most of this understanding came from their broker's explanations. A good client-broker relationship is built around a lot of trust, and this came through with not just the answers, but some of the comments that were made during the survey. The way in which my protection plan is offered through a mortgage broker allows clients to ask any questions they have, get the answers they need, and take the time to consider their own needs. Obviously, we get a lot of claimants that provide testimonials to us. And one of the recent claimants shared a testimonial who was diagnosed with colon cancer. He was just 41 years of age after losing his wife to an illness as well. He was grateful the claim was processed quickly and received over $46,000. Basically, what he said to us was that having the ALI protection in place means I don't have to rush back to work and can focus on my health. As an accountant, I recommend insurance to a lot of my clients. Having the payout from making the claim means I don't have to worry about the mortgage for quite a while and other out-of-pocket expenses which came up during the cancer treatment. And we hear these sort of things day in, day out. Obviously, I thank you very, very much for today. If you're interested in becoming an authorised representative, then go to our website and register. And one of our BDMs will give you a call and say hello. So thank you again for today, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks for that, Stephen. A great service what you guys provided ALI. And I know a number of our members have used the service for their clients, and it's certainly for those time of need. It's a fantastic insurance policy for those who come unstuck in certain matters of their life. So thanks a lot for that. Our next presenter is going to be Caitlin Stewart, and we're going to be hearing from Caitlin about embracing digital teams, building capacity and setting your business up to scale and at affordable staff. So I'd like to welcome Caitlin Stewart, who's going to take us through this segment for the next 5 minutes or so, and let us know all about what they do on their outsourcing model.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that, Brett. Good morning, everybody, and thanks for sticking it out to the end with me. I won't be taking up much of your time, but hopefully we'll be sharing some key insights that you can take away and have a think about. So my name is Caitlin Stewart. I'm the Financial Services BDM here at Affordable Staff, and my role is to help brokers get their life back while still building profitable businesses. So some common themes that I see when speaking to a lot of brokers, and I do speak to a lot of sole brokers or small businesses, they're working at the moment, especially really long hours. So 10 hours, maybe more every day. Weekends are spent on the business, not on their personal life. So a lot of unhappy spouses from what I'm hearing. A lot of the time, important admin and compliance is being pushed back until the very last minute, which is obviously very stressful when it comes to audit. And many brokers at the moment that I'm speaking to are very limited in being able to take on new clients or referral partners, or they're turning leads away. As well as that, their existing clients are being underserviced and moving their business away to maybe other brokers as well too. A lot of the time, capacity is just maxed out. With many of the brokers I'm speaking to, they're stagnating in growth, their books are not building, they could potentially be going backwards, and because of that, they're really unsure if they can actually afford to hire more permanent staff or any staff at all. The key to capacity is understanding what your capacity is. Obviously, it's not sustainable to be working these long hours. So in order to grow your book, you need to understand this. So have a think about how much time you're spending on your tasks. So if you're a person that's doing it all, there are certain things that you could potentially easily delegate down, and that can potentially save you quite a significant amount of time as well. It's important to note that the tasks that you're doing, or the tasks that you're not currently delegating, if you're not using any services or staff, are they actually making you any money, or are they just taking that time away from your return on investment activities? Just a really quick shout out to help you understand your sustainable capacity is the 10X group. They've got a fantastic calculator that you can access for free that will allow you to see what your sustainable capacity is, and so that you can understand exactly how many clients you will be able to take on or see within a week, as well as handle your admin. Once you understand what your capacity is, it's time to sit down and make a plan. The new financial year is upcoming. Now's the perfect time to think about, what are your goals for the next year? How can you make that happen? If part of your goals are to scale your business better, bring on some additional assistance, but you're not too sure about whether or not you could afford it, maybe you should consider having a chat with us for looking at a virtual assistant. So a virtual assistant can handle your low value, time consuming tasks so that you can focus on working on the business instead of just in the business. We estimate that you can save anywhere from 10 to 20 hours per deal by delegating to a dedicated resource located in the Philippines. So this can allow you or your local team members to focus on those higher return on investment activities. It will also bring in more capacity. So more capacity for the business, more capacity for your personal life. So you can start going back to birthday parties. And obviously now that we're allowed to go to the pub, have a bit of time to spend with your loved ones. We provide a full-time dedicated support member, so another team member. They just sit in a different office. And it's important to note as well too, obviously with tax time coming up, you're paying us, an Australian-based company, for services rendered. So your staff member is also a tax-deductible expense. Here's just a quick slide that talks through some of the top 10 tasks that many of our brokers are outsourcing. So as I touched on earlier, low value, time consuming tasks. This usually predominantly focuses on processing, but you can also utilize your VA in other admin tasks as well in your business, as well as compliance, customer service, whatever you've got that you can hand over easily and readily available. Just a couple of quick case studies to finalise, just to demonstrate some of the value that our clients have been receiving lately. So the first client, Kim, was a sole broker. She was averaging $1.5 million per month in settlements and was actually turning away leads. So the month before she came to us, she told me she turned away 3 new clients because she just wasn't able to take them on. She hired a VA in November of 2020, and very quickly after that, within 2 months, she had increased her settled volumes to an average of $4 million, and she was enjoying more time with new clients and referral partners. The last couple of months have been great for her. She's averaged $6 million. She's very happy. I had a chat with her last week. And she's actually now also looking to bring on another team member on board so that she can continue to sustainably grow her business further. The second case study, a little bit of a different dynamic here. Principal broker Peter was averaging $3 million a month. He had one full-time in-house admin and had also just recently brought on a new to industry broker. He knew that that broker needed some support as well as for him, so he hired a VA through Affordable Staff in January of this year to support that team. And since then, volumes have more than doubled. So settlements have now increased to an average of $8 million per month. The team's very busy, but Peter is very happy. He has also actually been able to drop down to 4 days. So going from working 7 days a week to 4 days and enjoying that time with his family while still having those increased settlement volumes. So if you'd like to learn more, you can get in touch. Let's have a chat. I am working obviously online, but also being based here in Melbourne. I am more than willing to come and have a coffee with you if it is safe to do so. You can actually book yourself directly into my calendar there. Those are my contact details. I will also be sharing these slides afterwards once the mailing list has come through. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Caitlin. That's excellent. I like the idea of going working from 7 days to 4 days. I'd like to go working from 5 days to 2 days. I think that's great. Not sure that's going to happen to me. So thanks. Look, I think everybody, the outsourcing of those non-essential tasks for what you set up your business for, at the end of the day, as brokers, we are salespeople, and that is what you want to do with your time and not spend so much time on that tedious back office stuff. So I think it's great that the team at Affordable Staff can provide that service for you. So get in touch with Caitlin if you can. Look, well, that pretty much brings us to a close today. We hope you got a lot out of today. You know, the information provided from all of our sponsors and all of our presenters. I know I did. A few things brought back some great things that I should do in my day-to-day life, particularly around the stress reduction, and I'm sure we all can do that. Look, I just want to say that myself, Leah, and all of our state councils are available for any matters for any of you guys. If you need to talk, if you want to reach out, you need some further assistance, you've got questions, you've got complaints, you've got problems, whatever, you can always reach out to any of us. All of our details are on the websites, in the apps and whatnot. But before we close off, there's a few notes that I want to cover. One, thanks to all of our sponsors. I'm not going to rename you all. I've left the names up there for long enough for you all to have a look at them. We spoke about them all earlier. So thank you everybody for contributing to these events. Without them and their money and their people and their time, these events wouldn't be able to happen. Secondly, I know there was a question from somebody earlier on about the CPD code. Those codes will be coming out with a short survey after this. I know some of you said you didn't get yours from yesterday. If that's the case, just email through and we'll chase that up ourselves. And thirdly, tomorrow there's going to be our next Q&A session with Whitey. Hopefully he won't be in a hotel this time under quarantine for traveling around the country. And so that's tomorrow at 11:30 AEST. Whitey is going to be talking with Martin Lamb, co-founder of Lendy, to answer questions that have been using technology within our industry. Again, you can register via the FBAA website on the upcoming webinars tab. There's also our national conference coming up at the end of July. It's the Heroes and Villains. It's going to be interesting to see what everybody's wearing. I have my costume done already, and I'm looking forward to turning up in it. Not really, but I will be. It's quite fun. So I encourage you all to, if we are able to travel to Queensland and we are able to get up there, get yourselves up there. It's going to be a great day. And there are a number of rides at SeaWorld that will be open, and at Movie World, sorry, that will be open for us to use. And I know for those who've been in their previous years when we were in our tuxedos riding the Superman ride, it was quite an event. Finally, if you go to our YouTube channel, you can watch and grab CPD hours. You can register for upcoming webinars via our FBAA website, and you can also use our app that you've got there. So thank you, everybody. I appreciate you all for taking the time out to come and join us, and be safe and have a great day. Thank you very much. Take care.